a fun part of the NBA offseason, especially for the Chicago Bulls, as there's so much change going on with the Chicago Bulls. A new GM in Bryson Graham has come in. The Chicago Bulls have the 4th overall pick and the 15th overall pick in the 2026 draft, and Bulls fans for the first time feel like change really could be happening. So I figured, why not bring something unique and fun? We're going to do hot take episodes here on Bulls Without Borders, and this is going to be a reoccurring weekly episode as long as we get hot takes from you guys, and I'll be monitoring it. You can leave your own hot takes in the comment section, or you can follow me at CEO Haize on Twitter and give me your hot takes there. But with that said, we have 5 hot takes, well, 6, because one's a 2-for-1 on today's episode that I want to get into, and this comes from the community. Also, we got a couple from other Bulls Without Borders hosts, and let's go ahead and get into it. So the first hot take that we have is from Dalton Nichols on Twitter, who says Matas averages 20-plus points per game and makes his first All-Star team. Now, this is an extremely hot take because it takes a lot to make the All-Star team, especially as a forward in the Eastern Conference, and that's what Matas is going to have to do. And so I don't know if he's going to be, because All-Stars are also tied to team success. And the Chicago Bulls are just in a flux period with their roster and with the new phase, and they're on the ground floor, as Bryson Graham has said. So I don't really know if an All-Star is a realistic leap here. I mean, we would all love to see it as Chicago Bulls fans, to see Matas Buzelis make that leap and become an All-Star as a Chicago Bull. Last year, Matas Buzelis saw a leap last year from his rookie year at 17.9 usage to 22.1. Most of that usage, the higher usage, came at the beginning of the season when we had players injured. Kobe White missed the season. And, of course, after the trade deadline where we completely revamped our roster. For what it's worth, Matas Buzelis had 16 points per game last year, and this puts him in a place where a 4-point-per-game leap. Can Matas Buzelis realistically do that? I think the usage rate for Matas would probably have to go up to about 24 to 25 for him to get that done. He took 12.5 shots per game, so just adding 2 more shots to that or 1 more 3 to that could get him to that 20-point-per-game total for the most part there. And I think that's very doable, right? We, of course, need to see who the Chicago Bulls are going to draft. If it is Caleb Wilson, who is going to have to work on his jump shot a little bit, I do think there's going to be a lot more shots for Matas Buzelis there. If we get Cam Boozer, I still think there's going to be more shots for Matas than what it was last season. But I do think Cam Boozer is going to get a lot of shots as well, even as a rookie. So this is a hot take, but it is a realistic one. I think that Matas making the leap to being a 20-point-per-game scorer is very realistic and in the realm of possibility. I don't think it's too much too soon. I think that usage is going to be there. All-Star may have to come once the Chicago Bulls are a winning team again, and Matas would have to be either the best or second-best player on a winning team to get that done, averaging over 20 points per game. Bulls fans, I don't think, are asking if Matas can be good anymore. I think people are, and it's telling that people are realizing Matas can be good. How good now becomes the question for Matas Buzelis, and a leap from 16 to 20 points per game could be a realistic and a much-needed leap for Matas Buzelis next season. Let's get into the next hot take that we have. This one comes from Ridemaker 19971 on Twitter. He says this: the Bulls will be above 500 next season. Now, this is a huge hot take, right? And one that I have to say, when you look at the state of the Chicago Bulls, with so much openness on the roster, they do have some veterans in Trey Jones and Jalen Smith, and we'll see what happens with Nick Richards and Zach Collins and see what happens with those guys. But ultimately, like, the Bulls being above 500, that means they have to win at least 41 games next season. For a team that's going to probably have an average age of about 22 to 23, that's a very difficult thing to get done. It's not impossible, but I do think Bryson Graham would have to go all in free agency with going after the Walker Kesslers, the Peyton Watsons, the whatever it is. Now, those two guys are both guys that are reported to go back. Now, I will say this, with Josh Giddey, Matas Buzelis, both those guys having kind of more open shots and things like that, depending on who we get with 4th overall pick, I do think this team could be a lot better than people are giving it credit for. But above 500 in year one of a rebuild and retool, it's a lot. You'd have to see growth from Matas, growth from Josh Giddey. Your rookie at the 4th overall pick would have to be maybe a rookie of the year contender, which is definitely possible. And then you need veterans on this team like Trey Jones, Jalen Smith, Isaac Okoro, and other players to step up. It's not something that's completely impossible, but I do think the focus of this team isn't necessarily about winning the most games. It's about development. Now, I think they're going to try to develop, especially with the lottery change. The rules of the lottery changing, and teams that are in the middle actually are going to get the better lottery odds. I do think this is going to be a team that's going to try to develop through trying to win every single game, and I think that is the best place for your development of your players for sure. But will it result in an above 500 season? That's tough, right? Being above 500 would be super exciting in the first year of a rebuild, and it would garner a lot of excitement for Bulls fans. The real question comes, does if it comes via what they're building and the foundation that Bryson Graham is laying the groundwork with this team, it would be great. I just don't personally know if it's realistic with where the Bulls are right now. So very hot take. If it does happen, I'll be one of the biggest ones to celebrate it. And it would be such an accomplishment for Bryson Graham to get this team to being even a 500 team or above 500. You're saying above 500 team, in the first year of that. So let's see what's going to happen there. The next one that we have is a dual one. This was one from Easyland. Y'all follow Easy on Twitter. He's one of my favorite followers on Twitter. He said this, don't trade this pick, this fourth overall pick, right? And we're going to start with that one. He's at 2 here. He's also said we're going to have a surprisingly good trade this summer. I want to start with this one. Don't trade the number 4 overall pick. Here's the thing. The draft philosophy of Bryson Graham, and I think overall the Chicago Bulls, they can't afford to look this number 4 pick in the face and just move it. Like, I get it that people have talked about, some Bulls fans have fallen for the Darius Acuff stuff and things like that. But I think overall, when you look at Caleb Wilson and Cam Boozer, both these guys have the potential of being a franchise-altering talent. You don't trade out of that. In some other drafts where there's a clear number 1, maybe even a 2-player draft, and then kind of everything under that, they have very similar ceilings. Maybe in a draft like that, you would do, like last year's draft, maybe you do something like that. This year, no. There's such a big gap between the top 4 and even people who have Darius Acuff number 5. There's such a big gap in that, in both how you can build with those guys and the overall potential. I would not move out of the top 4. I agree with you there. The Bulls do not trade the number 4 pick. It would just be too stupid for a team that's rebuilding to casually move unless there is some type of return we all look at and say, this is going to make the Chicago Bulls a can't-miss team. And I just don't see that trade being there. The Bulls are too far away from that. So I agree with you. Now, the second part of this, the Bulls are going to make a surprisingly good trade this summer, and the culture is going to be set. Now, I do think the culture is going to be set. I don't get surprised by that. I think when you look at Bryson Graham and already what he's done in the front office, Michael Reinsdorf seemingly really learning a lesson from the AK and the Acme era and the failure there. I think there's a really good chance that the culture is already changing here in Chicago. Of course, that's going to be, factored in a little bit more once we do hire a new head coach. And then, of course, by who we draft. Those things are going to really already set a new culture. So the culture part is there. The surprisingly good trade, I think it comes down to what do you view as a surprisingly good trade, right? Like, I would view a surprisingly good trade as, like, if the Bulls were to go out and get, like, Aaron Wiggins and for, absorbing him to help the OKC Thunder. I think that would be a surprisingly good trade because you're getting a 2-way player that has tremendous upside, and you're doing it for next to nothing. The Bulls cap space and teams that are going to be looking to get under the second tax apron, that opens the door for the Chicago Bulls to get a trade without getting much back and getting a young piece that you can evaluate for a couple of years before you do that, right? The Bulls need pieces that fit their timeline. Culture is not just about quotes or saying the right thing. It's about effort. It's about vibes. It's about roles. It's about accountability. It's about development. Those are things that we've lacked here a lot with Chicago. So I think Bryson Graham, the front office, Stephen Mervis, AC Law, then it goes to the coach, who's on that coaching staff. I think we're going to see a big culture shift. As far as a surprising trade, it really depends on what you really view as surprising. Like, we'll see. We'll see what's happening in that one. He has the assets, all the second round picks. If you say that surprising is moving from the second round to get a first round pick, I think that's there. But the Bulls, I will say this, they don't just need a trade. They need the right trade if they're going to do one, and one that tells everyone that this rebuild is actually what this rebuild is actually about. And if you get that from this team, I think you're in a pretty good spot overall, right? All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one is from my brother, Neil, one of the hosts of Bulls Without Borders. When we do it, he says this: the biggest mistake the Bulls could make this summer is trying to accelerate the rebuild by chasing a win-now veteran in free agency. Now, I don't know if that's as much of a hot take, right? Like, it really depends. Like, I've said this before, and I did this over on my show over in Chicago Bulls Central. When you look at kind of rebuilds and development situations that have worked the best for their teams, you want about 55 to 60% of your minutes to go to your players that are 24 and below. Other than that, about 30%, or not a little bit more, which equates to about 100 minutes, you want those to go to veterans. So I think if you get veterans that kind of fit in and help your players develop within structure, that's where you want to be in. If you're looking for a win now, like a Chet Holmgren or something like that, that's not where the Bulls are. They're not one player away. So I don't think they can dress up impatience as ambition, and that's what they have to avoid with this. rebuilds fail when teams rush to the middle. And that's basically what AK did to start off his tenure here. Well, the second offseason when he brought in DeMar and those guys, he made a bunch of moves, and after trading for Vooch, to rush to the middle. You don't want to do that. Build organically to get to the middle, and then if you need something to get you over the top, that's when you do that. And I think that's what the Bulls, they should look now to build organically, and any veterans that they bring in, whether it's signing or whatever else, have them bring something that adds a dynamic that makes it easier on your young players to develop. You do that, I think you're in a really good spot in your rebuild. Let's get into this last one, man. This one is from my brother Troy, who says this: Caleb Wilson falls to the Chicago Bulls and becomes the best player in the draft. Now, that would absolutely be great for the Chicago Bulls. Now, this is one thing that I'll say. It's going to take time, right? Even we've seen it, even sometimes rookies that look the best out of the class in that first year, by year 2, 3, 4, it may not be that same way, right? And I think that some develop more slowly. You look at Cade Cunningham, for example. Him and Ayo Dosunmu's rookie year, Ayo wasn't that far removed from Cade Cunningham. Now look at where they are, even though Ayo's still a really damn good player, right? So I think that it really comes down to how you develop Caleb Wilson, the structure that you put in place there, how good he works out. Now, he is a player that is, it seems like he's going to be really driven to do those things. I always look at Caleb Wilson and I say this: a player that doesn't have a super reliable jump shot yet, but already averaged almost 20 points per game in college. Not to say that all 20, college scoring is not necessarily NBA scoring, but him averaging, being 38th in the nation in scoring, 19.8 points per game, basically 20 points per game, I do think shows that there is more scoring upside than people want to give him credit. He's smart as well. He understands not to do too much. He only took 1 3-pointer per game. And if he, over the course of the first 2 or 3 years of his career, really gets that 3-point shot going, I think you can see him being, because he's already one of the best defenders. He's going to be such a versatile defender that can guard multiple positions. His rebounding abilities, block shots, steals. He's going to be able to start the fast break, all those type of things. If he can work out a consistent jump shot to go along with that to keep defenses honest, and he's going to have guards that can get him the ball, Caleb Wilson is going to be a very dangerous guy in the NBA if that trajectory continues. So him being the best player in the draft, it's possible. Right now, of course, guys are going to say Boozer, Peterson, and AJ DeBonsa probably all have higher ceilings than him where it stands right now. But just because you have the higher projected ceiling doesn't always mean that you cap out on that, right? And Caleb Wilson, with that jumper still being raw for him, with the good form, I do think that's going to be a big telling part on what he can turn into. High ceiling talent fails, right? And Chicago can't overthink this, but I do think becoming the best player in the draft, it's a massive claim. But I think that if we can get one of those players that people look back and say, how was he the one that fell out of that top 4? That shows a lot about what the Chicago Bulls can be and what they can have here. But that's it for today's episode. I want to give a shout out to every fan who sent in a hot take. We're going to make this reoccurring every single week here. And y'all came with it today, so I appreciate y'all for that. And I just want to keep the reminder out there. We are at the ground floor, as Bryson Graham said, of this rebuild. But that doesn't mean that it's going to take 4 or 5 years. Let's see what we can do, and let's see how Bryson Graham gets to work this offseason. Thank you guys for tuning in to Bulls Without Borders. Make sure you guys here on Saturdays when we go live with the full team. Love you guys. Peace.